100 miles per hour. Chris Osceola, who was fishing nearby with his uncle, watched in horror.
And he was doing, a turn like that. I didn't know what was going on. And then after it turned up sideways, and that's when it started heading down. I mean, it went pretty much straight down. And that's when I said, it's going to crash, and then boom, thing just blew up.
In the time it took the fishermen to run to get a closer look, the jetliner had vanished.
You couldn't even tell that a plane had crashed out there. You couldn't see anything.
The pilots apparently never had a chance. Just minutes out of Miami, the crew radioed the DC-9 was filling with smoke, and they turned around to attempt an emergency landing. But less than 2 minutes later, all radio and radar contact was lost as the jet went into a fatal dive.
Things happen so quickly. Something catastrophic happened. It could have been a fire that was out of control with all that smoke.
Today, the FAA stepped up its inspections of ValueJet's maintenance and operations, and President Clinton asked for more.
I have directed Secretary Pena to report to me this week on additional measures the Department of Transportation and the FAA can take to ensure that all our airlines continue to operate at the highest level of safety.
The black box will be flown to Washington, where officials will retrieve data, which includes the airplane's speed, direction, and altitude. But more crucial information may be contained on the cockpit voice recorder, and investigators now are optimistic they will soon find that as well. Bob Orr, CBS News, Miami.
This is Scott Pelley. CBS News has learned the FAA itself will be the target of an investigation into its safety inspections at ValueJet Airlines. The Department of Transportation, which oversees the FAA, has received allegations that FAA inspectors were pressured to go easy on ValueJet. Mary Fackler-Schiavo is Transportation's Inspector General.
I think folks were aware in the department that they had an incident rate many times greater than most of the other low-cost carriers.
Schiavo says ValueJet is a marginal airline and the FAA knows it. There have been 7 incidents in less than a year. One plane caught fire in Atlanta, another skidded off the runway in Washington.
It's like the worst thing you could ever go through.
Beth Ernst's niece, Amanda Summers, was a flight attendant in the Florida crash. She says Amanda talked about maintenance problems.
And she goes, this really concerns me, because it's not worth me dying for.
ValueJet has among the lowest paid flight crews. Pilots make half the industry standard. Its planes are, on average, 25 years old. ValueJet President Louis Jordan.
You that if ValueJet Airlines had any reason to believe that any one of our aircraft was not safe, we would voluntarily ground it.
ValueJet began 2 years ago and now has 50 planes. Through cost-cutting, it has become the most profitable of recent no-frills airlines. Robert Besco is an airline safety consultant.
Somewhere you've got to cut corners. Somewhere you're not providing the same things, you're not providing the same level of training.
Today, FAA inspectors examined ValueJet planes. Over the next few weeks, they will ride along to monitor procedures. The FAA had no immediate comment on the investigation into its procedures at ValueJet. The Department of Transportation's Inspector General called the accident extremely upsetting because she says it was clear ValueJet was a budget airline with a wealth of trouble. Scott Pelley, CBS News, Dallas.
Adding to the tragedy, the real possibility that some of the remains of the passengers may never be retrieved or identified for their grieving families. As Art Rascone reports, it is not for lack of trying.
If there had to be a crash, it couldn't have been in a worse area. This is what rescue workers are up against. They're everywhere. It has forced searchers to arm themselves.
On the top of the boat, there was a sniper with an automatic weapon with periscope on it.
There are also deadly snakes, swarms of mosquitoes, and jet fuel in the water. And then there's the Everglades itself. Sawgrass and murky water up to 5 feet deep. Under the water, a thick bed of muck-like peat. Below that, about 10 feet of soft limestone, then layers of hard bedrock. The conditions make it a slow, exhausting, and almost impossible task for divers.
They're basically doing this with their hands and feeling around with their feet and seeing what they can discover.
As the search slowly moves forward, there is the frightening realization among the families of victims that is only adding to their pain and grief. It is the strong possibility that their loved ones may be lost in this swamp forever.
I'm hiding. and I'm weak.
From Miami, Willie and Teresa Shotwell. They lost their 2 sons, Jarvis and Alvin. The couple has one last wish.
I just hope and pray to God that they do find them.
From Detroit, Donna Reynolds and her daughter, Kim. They flew out one day late because Donna had an ear infection. Her husband, Roy.
Totally devastated here.
And from Indiana, Terry Rugg. She was on the flight with her parents after a week in the Keys. Her husband, Kenneth, stayed behind.
We had a very strong marriage. We were each other's best friends, and I keep that forever.
From across the country, so many faces, and for grieving families, so much pain. Pain that rescue teams hope they can eventually ease. Art Rascone, CBS News, the Everglades.
Still ahead on the CBS Evening News, the Oxford Union Debating Society breaks with tradition, gives special privileges and press protection to O.J. Simpson. And Man Against Mountain, a story of death and survival on the world's tallest peak.
It's your first day, you try to hide your fear, but you'll be okay.
Last October, appearing on a British talk show, Mr. Simpson said again that on the day of the long car chase with police, he was simply returning home after trying in vain to visit the grave of his former wife, Nicole. He said he was not fleeing to Mexico. Coming up, we will listen to America.
This is at the courts tonight.
In Rhode Island, it's been illegal for liquor dealers to advertise their prices. The state said the ads would lead to price competition and more drinking. But when the state slapped a fine on this store for a newspaper ad that didn't actually show a price, just the word wow next to a vodka bottle, the store owner went to court.
Because the price of gas goes down, does that mean that you go out and buy more gas?
Throwing the law out today, a unanimous Supreme Court said the state never proved that price ads would cause more drinking. Justice Stevens said the First Amendment requires courts to be skeptical of rules intended to keep people in the dark for what the government perceives to be their own good. And Justice Thomas warned that banning speech about legal activities is the government's way of doing indirectly what it might not have been able to muster the political support to do openly. The tobacco industry cheered the ruling as ammunition in its battle over the Clinton administration's plan to restrict cigarette ads on billboards, in newspapers and magazines, and in sponsoring sporting events.
This Supreme Court feels that commercial speech deserves substantial protection, even when it concerns products, so-called vice products like tobacco and alcohol.
Constitutional scholars say the ruling means the government should concentrate on regulating ads that are misleading.
And not the regulation of truthful or non-misleading speech that simply advertises something.
Good news.
Mr. Cook killed. Who are you? I am his mother.
Back at the scene of the crime, helicopters circled and searched. Police blew up the car which the terrorists had fired from. Pictures which would and will play perfectly in the right-wing campaign aimed at unseating Prime Minister Perez. The ads mounted by his opponent, Benjamin Netanyahu, proclaim, "There is no peace, there is no reason to vote for Perez." And the campaign got 2 new spokespeople tonight, the mother and father of David Boyne, who managed to see beyond their grief to its political meaning.
This peace is killing us. It's not a peace. And I hope we won't have to contend with this peace after this election.
It came as a shock, today's attack, but it was no surprise. Israel's peace camp and its leader had been expecting it.
We know that there is an intentionally attempt to kill the peace process. We are not surprised.
The young student was laid to rest late tonight, David Boyne, a name which will be a battle cry for the next 2 weeks. Everybody on every side of this struggle understands exactly what's happening. Terror is a tactic Islamic militants are using to get rid of Perez. But despite this understanding, the tactic works. If the killing continues, Perez is in trouble. Bob Simon, CBS News, Tel Aviv.
Found when we were listening to people was that all the talk about Americans being so angry was altogether too simplistic. When we listened to people talk about what was important to them, not just what we asked, we found ourselves
Towns with heavy artillery, but the Russians are still taking casualties from hit-and-run attacks by the separatist rebels. Off the west coast of Africa, thousands of refugees from the civil war in Liberia are still searching for a safe haven. 1,000 people are stranded aboard one leaking freighter off the coast of Sierra Leone. They left Liberia several days ago, but have been turned away by neighboring African countries. They're surviving on food and water ferried out by relief agencies.
My last cigarette was 11:52 last night. First piece of Nicorette was about 30 seconds after I woke up. I don't know how I feel yet. I'm still not smoking. 7 days. Nicorette takes just enough of the edge off the knee. I still want to light up, but I don't have to. I don't have to.
If you want to stop smoking, Nicorette gum can increase your chance of success by helping control your cravings. And now it's available without a prescription. You can do it. Nicorette can help.
While a brother may be hard to propel, the Hoover Power Drive is self-propelled, making cleaning so easy, even a brother could do it.
Hoover, nobody does it like you.
All right, we're going low-fat, fresh turkey, lettuce, tomato on...
Be an American. Learn the language, get a job, get a Social Security number, and get the better way of life.
We found lots of nostalgia.
Used to be somebody have some troubles, everybody'd fly in and help them, their house burned down, and all the neighbors would fly in and build them a new house or a new barn.
But as you will hear, quite often the good old days were harder than people remember.
We've always looked back and thought things were better then, but we also have nostalgia in our own lives for what we thought was simpler. But my word, I wouldn't be a teenager again for anything.
We were struck by the enormous emphasis people placed on family life. Everywhere we went, we heard time and again about the value of the family. In the Pacific Northwest, for example, our John Donovan found it to be a yardstick for success.
When the subject of success came up here in the Northwest, I'd expected to hear more people talking dollar bills. I thought that more people would define success in America in terms of how well they were doing financially, but they didn't. Everybody I spoke with, from farmers in Oregon to field workers born in Mexico, to kids in an inner-city classroom in Portland, Oregon, they all defined success in terms of their families. They said that if they felt loved by their families, and more importantly, if they felt that they could take care of their families, then they'd made something of themselves.
You will hear in the next 2 weeks how concerned people are with what they call the moral decline in the nation. In parts of the South, Aaron Hayes found profound concern about how difficult it can be today for our kids.
Here in Tennessee, from the Smoky Mountains all the way to the Mississippi River, I heard people talking about how difficult the world is for children. Things almost unheard of here 10 years ago. Guns in schools, teenage gangs are becoming a reality. A retiring junior high school principal told me he's very concerned. He thinks children are no longer our priority, while others say they see it as part of an overall moral decline. A highway construction worker said he'd like to see prayer back in the schools. And that's a common refrain here in Tennessee, offered by those who see it as at least a step back toward a time when the world was safer for children.
When we come back, we'll listen to a woman who's decided she will now make time for her family.
I think our work ethic is basically your job comes first and your family comes second or third or fourth. And I think that I've bought into that.
There are definite reasons we created Ford Windstar to be the only minivan with available all-speed traction control and...
By no means the most guilty man we've had here.
Nixon banned the press from his address in these historic chambers, and for only the second time in Oxford Union's 173-year history, Simpson has as well.
It's going to be questioned, and in that circumstance, I think he's going to get killed in there. I shouldn't use that word, but he will.
What he's hoping for, though, is the chance to rehabilitate himself and regain his former celebrity. Vicki Mabry, CBS News, Oxford.
In this country, a nationwide survey finds gasoline prices still rising, but not nearly as fast as they had been. The Lundberg survey says over the last 2 weeks, the average price per gallon rose less than 2 cents, compared with 5 cents the previous 2 weeks. And a report out today finds American workers taking a greater hit this year from corporate mergers. In the first 4 months of 1996, more than 21,000 employees were laid off as a result of mergers. That's an increase of 78% over the same period last year. Straight ahead, Eye on America. New research on diet and your health.
Empty. We're Lucent Technologies. We make the things that make communication.
We'll have more news when we come back. Up next, the sense of smell, a research breakthrough. It will change the way you live and love.
What they help exotic ways to manipulate brain chemistry. By contrast, some of the most promising research on diet and health is underway and down to earth in the Arizona desert.
Announcing Goodyear's race day.
Arnott went there to investigate.
In the Arizona desert, two ancient Indian nations are struggling to hold on to their past while facing an uncertain future. The children who today learn the old songs may not live to sing them to their children.
How many of you have people in your families again that are diabetic?
My grandma, my other grandma, my auntie, and my uncle.
The Tohono O'odham and Pima Indians have the highest reported rate of diabetes of any people in the world.
It is now a disease of younger and younger individuals.
Dr. Chico Livingston, a physician with the U.S. Indian Health Service, says almost 40% of the two tribes have diabetes.
With the horrible consequences of diabetes. Remember that we're talking about dialysis, amputations, blindness, loss of teeth.
The most severe complication of diabetes, kidney failure, is so common that this dialysis center is overflowing. 2 shifts, 6 days a week. Just 50 years ago, diabetes was virtually unknown here in this nation. So why is it happening now?
Our elders have told us for many years now that diabetes is a side effect of losing touch with the O'odham Hinduk or the O'odham way of life.
And the elders, it seems, are right. So many of these Indians have diabetes because so many are obese. Their diet, full of foods their ancestors never ate.
They were remarkable. They were thin. They tended to travel long distances. They could be amazing runners.
Then, after World War II, they were introduced to the white man's food.
All of a sudden we had lard, sugar, refined flour.
And lots of it. This is what the tribe eats now. Their version of a taco, made from dough and fried in fat. Native foods have given way to fast foods. But not all of the Tohono O'odham and Pima Indians are obese or have such a remarkably high rate of diabetes. Here in the Sierra Madre of northwestern Mexico, in the village of Mycoba, is another population of Pimas. These Pimas are strikingly different from their American cousins.
The differences in body size are quite astonishing.
Dr. Mauro Valencia has been working with the National Institutes of Health on a study of diabetes and obesity among the Pimas in Mexico.
We have found a prevalence of 3.5% diabetes in Sonora, in the Pimas, compared to 37% prevalence in Arizona, and with a difference of about 60 to 65 pounds in weight, in body weight.
Thought to be genetically identical to the Arizona tribes, the Pima of Mexico are trim and taut, living a rigorous existence in the mountains. Jose Angel Galaviz, 64, works with the energy and enthusiasm of a 24-year-old. What allows you at the age of 64 to work from 6 in the morning until 10 at night?
I think the food has a lot to do with it.
The beans, corn tortillas, and potatoes they eat don't have a lot of fat.
The diet that is associated with Western Europe, I believe, is dysfunctional for most ethnic populations.
While the Western diet threatens the waistline of most Americans, it threatens the very existence of Arizona's Native Americans.
So far, scientists know humans do in fact have a system in the brain to recognize pheromones, but they have yet to find evidence that humans produce pheromones. If they do find them, that means humans communicate to each other through scent, and our sense of smell has an even more profound effect on our brain than we know. Robert Bazell, NBC News, New York.
Now to NBC News Online. What else we're talking about tonight? 8 climbers, including 2 Americans, are presumed dead tonight, making their way down from the 29,000-foot summit when they got caught in a blizzard last Friday. Another American, Seaborn Weathers of Dallas, was taken off the mountain today at about 20,000 feet in what is being called the world's highest helicopter rescue. All this is being followed online. Developments on the tragedy are being reported on the internet directly from Everest via NBC's website. This includes information on the victims of the storm. When we come back, OJ in the UK.
Be quite so much if you had another roommate.
Well, I don't know, Mrs. Papa.
Wedding jitters got you out of bed.
What if I blow my line?
Never. Kellogg's Raisin Bran will start you 2 scoops ahead.
Nothing gets you by 7%. An across-the-board tax cut of 7%.
It's my daughter's first wedding.
Oh.
She got out about 4:30.
Kellogg's. Besides the whole world.
Walk on, walk on.
They say you're as young as you feel. And with one a day is 55
that I can never get back.
A low-level manager working Thursday through Monday, 2 to half past midnight, well paid but no weekends, a savings account but no time. She knows what she has and what she's missing.
I have missed recitals and baseball games, basketball games, and the things that make me high in life are watching my children participate in things, and there is no greater joy that I get from anything than I do than watching them. And to miss that, it kills me.
In some ways, she's fortunate. Her husband, who's still recovering from an on-job injury suffered more than 3 years ago, is home when she is not. But he is not as strict or demanding or as affectionate. The kids need Mom, and there is too little time, too many notes left on her pillow at night.
Mommy, I really miss you. I need you. Tell your manager, let you stay home with your little girl, and I'd have to go and explain to her that I have to work. I have to provide for them. Why?
Every month or so, she'll take each child out of school for a day. They miss class, but they get Mom, one day alone together, which seems like nothing and feels like everything.
Joey and I, we both love to fish, so we usually spend our days out fishing. And so we just talk about the fish, or sometimes we don't even talk. We just sit together.
Come on, you guys, give me a kiss goodbye.
Yolanda Dean is not unique. She does not complain. She doesn't expect Goodyear or the government to make her life easier. She simply juggles.
And behave, no fighting, please. Bye.
Time and responsibility, work and family.
Right now, I've got to do what I got to do for them, because I only get one chance at it. Life is too short, and they're going to be grown soon. And I only got one chance. I got to try to do it right.
For the millions of Yolanda Deans in America, life is not about the great issues and grand debates that almost always dominate the news. It's about Joey and TD and Jahan and time. Aaron Brown, ABC News, Topeka, Kansas.
Tomorrow we'll focus more sharply on the experiences people have with government.
And those of most of the others will never be recovered. They'll belong to Everest, along with many of the 100 other climbers whose lives the mountain has claimed over the years. And rest assured, these latest lives won't be the last lost on Everest. Wait till next spring. Richard Threlkeld, CBS News, New York.
And that's part of our world tonight. Tomorrow morning, CBS This Morning.
Government from other people, experiences they've had, frustrations they've had, and what it's encouraged them to do in their private lives. Later this evening on Nightline, the air safety in the country. That's our report on World News Tonight. I'm Peter Jennings. Good night.
He thinks he's found the secret to preventing obesity and diabetes growing in the desert. What is it, and does it really help? Dr. Bob Arnott reports tomorrow on the CBS Evening News.
CBS News.